It's Janet Fitch, and if this is noon on Wednesday, it must be Writing Wednesday, where I answer your writing questions about craft, about handling the writer's needs, um, questions about man, God, and the universe. So feel free to ask me anything. You can ask in the comments, or if you have questions that you think of during the week and would like me to design a whole Writing Wednesday around your question, send it to me at janetfitchwrites.com. That's my website, and I can directly answer your question and turn it this way and that, and see what various sides and facets of your question might be of interest to more than just you, because generally speaking, the writing life is similar to in all conditions, although we all have our psychological uniqueness and our own needs. But believe me, if you have a question, other people have the same question and are less shy about asking than you. So let's get started. I've got some questions that have come to me through the interwebs during the week, but if you have questions, just put them in the comment box and I'll be happy to answer them. So the question that the first question I got was, what is the one habit you believe contributed the most to you becoming a great writer? Well, thank you. Great writer or no, like what habit contributed the most to my becoming, let's just say, as good a writer as I can be? You know, it's what we're all trying for. I would say it is the one habit that was the most useful was not breezing past what I've already written, but stopping to look at what I've already written and ask more of each sentence. Ask more. Consider the implications of what I've already written. Don't just stay on the surface and breeze past these important things that you're creating. But to realize that it's important to notice, oh, I've just said something that actually bears unpacking, and not breezing past what of significance has been written. I'd say that probably was the most useful habit. Also, but I'd say, whenever somebody says say one, then you think of five. Another one would have to be listen for the music of the sentence. Listening for the music, shaping the music. Sentences are not simply units of communication, but it's actual sounds, language, and making something beautiful in the moment, as well as pursuing a story. So I think those two habits probably the most important one. Hi, Inge. I remember reading your books in my 20s. You inspired me to become a foster parent. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, when a book has, an impact in the world, that's really something. It's not something that a writer can intend, but a writer can tell the truth about life that might stir something in someone else. That's huge, and I thank you for for letting me know that, and thank you for doing it. We're talking about habits that contribute to great writing. I think that clearly the suiting up and showing up part of it is essential. Just like any sport, you suit up and show up, and maybe you're not going to hit a home run that day, but you do it. You do it. You're more likely to hit a home run if you suit up and show up every day. Here's a question Carla is asking. Hi, Carla. Do you find it best to ask more right away, or give the sentence and you a bit of space first? Well, usually you write a scene. You might write several scenes. You might write a chapter. You might write a couple chapters. But the next time you go through it, be searching those sentences and ask yourself, did I miss something here? Is there more here? Did I miss the significance of something? Even if it's like a character is drinking from a mug, what's on the mug? Is it something that can comment ironically on the situation? The guy is just, had this huge quarrel with his son, and something like, the kid's old Snoopy is on the mug he's drinking from. The kid's off to school, and all that dad can find to make coffee is the sippy cup. See what you can do to make things matter and make things meaningful. There's often something being handled. There is a moment where something has been overlooked. I'm trying to think of a good example of stop and just stop and contemplate the significance of what you've already written. If I can think of an easy illustration of that. Sometimes it's just being more specific. They open the window and look out as a pause in a conversation. Well, what would they see? Take a moment. What would they see out the window that would comment on the scene in progress? There are all these chances. It's almost like a story becomes an advent calendar. Hi, Miranda. I got to see one of you guys last night at a book signing, so that was very cool. There's, it's like an advent calendar, a scene, and it's full of these little windows that you can open. And don't forget to stop and open them. Instead of just breezing through in the top of the story, like what happens can often be underexplored, because these moments where there's a little window get lost sometimes. Here's one. Is it okay? Any more on this one? To try to find to stop and consider the implications of things you've already written, which I think is one of the most important habits of writing that has made me a better writer. What does it mean? What do things mean that the character might encounter? You bring home, you're unpacking your groceries, and there's a bad tomato. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a scene about the bad tomato, but it can be in a scene where things are starting to go bad for a character. They just happen to get a bad tomato. Or the character is trying very hard to, okay, here's an example. Characters trying very hard to be more in control of their life, maybe of their diet. Maybe there's somebody who's, trying to be more control of their life and their diet, and, being more healthy and stuff. And their fruit farm box order comes in, they unpack it, instead of the quart of or the half gallon of skim milk that they asked for, they get a half, a pint of heavy cream. It's like, thanks a lot. That's the kind of thing that you can use to make things mean something a little more. To consider the implications of things. Somebody says something, and instead of just ping-ponging back, to make sure to have a thought about what they've just said, or something the character sees just after another character lays something on them. So here's another question that I got. This was asking, is it okay to use both present and past tense when narrating a story? It's being done all the time. Often it's chapters, some chapters past tense, some present. I think that they don't work well in the same paragraph, or even in succeeding paragraphs. I think you have to, in any section or scene or chapter, whatever your unit is going to be, you put your point of view, your narrator, your protagonist, whatever it is, you put them somewhere to narrate the scene. And that is either going to be in a position of someone who knows what is going to happen and is relaying events that have already occurred, and their importance, their value has already been established. So a past tense gives, that's why the past tense gives the reader more of a feeling of authority on the part of the author, because it's being told from the place, the point of view, on this rock or this, wherever you've put them, that the story has all been known, and this is going to be a significant part of the story. Whereas in present tense, it's things are coming at you, and there is not as much confidence that everything that's coming at the narrator, the point of view character, will be significant. That's why it's like children telling you a story, and then, and everything's about the same size. And then we got ice cream, and then we went to Grandma's funeral, and then Scotty fell and had to get a Band-Aid. It's like it's all the same. Whereas in the past tense, the grandmother's funeral would get its proper dimensions. It's something to think about when choosing one or the other. To combine them, I can see one, say if you have multiple points of view, if you have one character who is relating things as they come, and another character is relating what the story, what happened, you're going to find the past tense more trustworthy. But definitely you can alternate them, you can use them, just you can't use them in the same paragraph, because it just gives the reader the sense that you have no control over your material. That you don't know you don't know that you're doing it, unnecessarily switching. Well, here's another one. Anybody have problems with point of view of present tense, past tense? Yes, it is okay to use them both when narrating a story. Miranda says she likes that there can be reflection of the narrator in the past tense. Yes, there can be. There's more distance. But I have no problem with people, who use both for different reasons. You just have to know why you're doing it and be in control of it. Here's one. Is it bad that my book has a lot of dialogue? This is Dirk, in case you're listening. It's not bad, but it is something to notice. Obviously, you have noticed it. When you notice it, sometimes that means there's too much dialogue. Dialogue, in my one woman's point of view, dialogue is for conflict. So it's not just yakety yak. That's life, yakety yak. But dialogue in fiction is for conflict between characters. If there's no conflict, you don't need the yak. You don't need the talk at all. You use the narrative exposition for that. And then you go into dialogue when it is the conflict between characters, and then you try for as much compression as you can. Fictional dialogue should be sharp. The utterances should be unique to the situation and to those characters. So if you have a line that anybody could say, that's a line nobody should say. There's no generic characters, so there should be no generic dialogue. If you notice that there is a lot of dialogue, then see how loose it is. See if you can compress it. See if you can combine things. See if it's conflict or if it's yak. If it's yacked, take it out and just use the exposition, use the narrative to get us to where the conflict is. So instead of would you like some coffee? Would you like a donut? Oh, I'd love a donut, blah, blah, blah. You just have the character bring, Sadie into the parlor, settle her down with tea and donuts, and, get to the point of why Sadie's there. Hi, Pawan. So, it's not bad to have a lot of dialogue, but first ask yourself, is this good dialogue? Is this conflict? Is this interesting? Are the utterances interesting enough that somebody would be interested in saying them? Say, a fabulous actor. Would the fabulous actor be attracted to that line? And then, are all the other elements of the dialogue scene present? Is there internal thought? Is there gesture? Are we watching each other's expressions? That's usually when there's too much dialogue, it's because there's other things missing, and there's a lack of compression in the dialogue, and there's more dialogue than there is conflict. So it's not bad, it's just there. So Pawan asks, what's the name of my new book? My newest book is called Chimes of a Lost Cathedral, and it's the second book of two that takes you through the Russian Revolution. And so it's out there. If you care to try it, thank you for the question. So here's another question I got. Okay, how do you figure out if your protagonist is book smart or street smart? I usually know. I mean, that's the kind of thing I would know as I'm formulating, as I feel character. They just pop. That's one of the things that I happen to do. One of the few things I do pretty naturally is create character. But I usually have some idea of their educational background, of their interests, their thoughts, where they come from. A street smart person is somebody, a lot of people have been around, but not everybody learned anything about from it. So being street smart is a very interesting thing to me. It's like people who say no, they're being lied to. Some people are just innocents. Some people, we call them first lifers. It's like they've never been here before. You can sell them anything. They just don't have what many people would call common sense. Pawan says, can this book be found in India? This is Chimes of a Lost Cathedral. I'm not sure. But it sure is, it's available internationally. So they probably are. The Revolution of Marina M and Chimes of a Lost Cathedral probably are available in India. If not, they're available certainly as ebooks, which are available anywhere. Is a protagonist book smart? This is something that, what does it mean to be book smart? It's not just having read a lot. A lot of people read a lot, but they're not particularly book smart. And what I think we mean by that usually is that the flavor of the books that you've read color your experience of the world, so that I see, say I am book smart. I would look at a situation in which a possibility was never explored in a book. I mean, in life, a possibility, say in a relationship, that was never explored. I might internally hear a quote by T.S. Eliot from The Wasteland, through the door we never open, into the rose garden. Down the hall we never walked, through the door we never opened. And that little chime would come into my head. That's like an earmark of a book smart person, is that there's chimes of what they've read in their head that you would include as part of their thought processes in a novel. So they don't have to be, super educated to be that person. In Paint It Black, my second book, I have a character who is a high school dropout, but she has been being exposed to a lot of books through her boyfriend. And so lines from books are starting to chime with her, because like a line of a song, people who are big music people, something will happen and they'll hear a line of a song in their head that they, a lyric that they know. So book smart people tend to have chimes of the books they've read. A street smart person is a canny person. A street smart person is somebody who's been around and has learned from what they've seen. They tend to be not as gullible as other people. They tend to smell, somebody selling snake oil. They walk on the side. They know which side of the street is going to be safer. They notice if somebody's following them. They might look in the store window to look behind them and notice, is somebody following them? They walk a certain way to, deflect somebody who might was looking for somebody to single out, to harass. A street smart person sees problems coming down the street, might cross the street. So those are really interesting traits to depict a street smart person. So how do you decide, how do you figure out if your protagonist is one or the other? They can be both, you know, often aren't, but they can be. You have to decide how canny or innocent do you want your character to be? How vulnerable to certain kinds of threats they are. If you want them to be able to be conned by a con man, that's not going to be a street smart person. So it's more deciding against making them this way or that way. If you want your character to be extremely rejecting of culture, you probably won't have them chiming with T.S. Eliot or anybody else. You won't hear the echoes of books inside their head, of authors and what they've said. A person who's, like, say, a big religious person might chime on the Bible, but you're not going to hear Kerouac. You're not going to hear, other people chiming in their heads. Their pastor, they're going to be quoting for their pastor, that kind of thing. All right. So Malika says, I have a student trying to learn to write about crying. He doesn't cry much. What suggestions would you have? Favorite scenes with crying? Well, the best writing about crying or use of crying in fiction is not to have the character cry, but to make the reader cry. And usually that happens, the character, to have them showing the character struggling not to cry. Struggling, trying to keep it together. That, to me, is that's more moving than, it's like, what is it? My husband is a comedy writer, and he always says, if you have the character laughing, it saves the reader the trouble of laughing. If you have the character crying, you're saving the reader the trouble. So, maybe he doesn't have to cry, or have his characters cry. Have them struggle not to. What favorite scenes with crying? I do a lot of struggling not to cry. Even when a character's crying, I don't say they're crying. Like the book that I'm working on now. I don't have them crying. I have them brushing away the tear, angrily. Just, or the glasses get fogged, another character, say a character who's being belittled, how you feel that one tear dripping down or dripping into your ear if you're lying down, your nose running, stuff like that, turning into a snotty mess is often the way I handle it, yeah, try to avoid it. I mean, not avoid the actuality of it, but the labeling of it. Try to talk about, like, use a metaphor. The way rain, like, make what it does with a newspaper or a napkin, a forgotten napkin in the rain, the way it falls apart. So anyway, that's my tip on that one. Okay. But if anybody can think of an answer for Malika, favorite scenes with crying, go ahead and put it in the comment for her. Here's another one. How would you write identical twins in a way to only very subtly suggest that they are twins? Okay, this is a question of withholding, and I hate withholding. You know, I don't believe in teasing the reader like that. I mean, if you have an obvious thing like identical freaking twins, you're going to want to say that, you know, they are identical twins. You know, Mark was 2 minutes older than Mike. The twins were identical, except that Mark carved his hair into a mohawk last year, except that Mike, you know, pierced his nose. I think that if you're dealing with identical twins, the trick is to tell us how they are not identical. You know, Mark lost the tip of his finger in the lawnmower when he was 8. That's going to, you know, how does their mom tell them apart? It's interesting to watch identical twins over the years and see how they do separate themselves after a while. How they do look different. I think that to only subtly suggest they're twins is a mistake. You know, it's such a big choice as a writer to choose to write about identical twins, that to say they're, you know, they're just to suggest it very obliquely, it's going to piss your reader off. It confuse them and then piss them off. So I wouldn't do it. That's just one person's opinion. Let's see if we have any other questions. Okay, I've got one more here. How do I piece together all the countless individual scenes of a story I started years ago and want to complete, put it all together? I have the storyline-ish, but not sure how to tie it together. It does not follow a standard plot outline idea. Okay, well, this I can see is somebody has a computer full of ideas for a book and has written various scenes for it, but kind of couldn't pull them together and just gave up, and now, years later, is deciding to take a look at it again. How to handle that? Well, the first thing, as many of you know, I'm a big fan of ring binders. So I would print out all those scenes, print them out, get them all together, put 3-hole punch in them, you know, or take them over to Staples and have them copied on 3-hole paper. And then put them start with a scene you really liked, and then put them in the ring binder. Try to find some flow to them. Notice where there's a big jump, like how the hell I have these scenes with Jill as, as a camp counselor, and now I have scenes with Jill like working as a waitress, and she's older. You know, there needs to be something in between, you know, so put a piece of paper in there and go TK, to come. And then I get the waitress, and then there's no climax. She has some interesting experiences, but it doesn't ever like come to the point of having dealt with her as a waitress. So you might want to put a piece of paper in there and say, you know, climax, or what's the point of this? And then keep going, and then put in more scenes, and then you have some scenes usually left over, like these are not going to fit anywhere. I don't know what to do with these. Just put them aside or put them at the back, like just have a index divider and just go, questionable scenes and put them at the end. And then get some kind of a flow going so you can see what you still need to write, what is never going to fit, and see if you can get some sense of the shape of the book and see what still needs to be written. The reason a lot of people like this have trouble is that they have several different versions of the same scene on their disc. They'll discover that, they have 4 different versions of the scene where Kelly meets, Joanna at the soccer fields. And, one of them ends with a fight, and one of them does this, and one of them ends up with them going out for drinks, and you'll look at those different versions, Kelly 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you pick one of them. Pick the one that seems to go somewhere, that has more kind of launch to the book, most meaningful, often the most recent. But maybe it's the first one. Maybe you never really got it better than the first one. You just rake the coals this way and that way, and it's still the same. It's still the same story. But pick one of them and put the others aside. A lot of the times people get confused because they do several drafts, and it's a big mush. They never get rid of anything. They never say, or they don't even, say draft 3, Kelly. So definitely you're going to have to sort through some of your various versions of things and get rid of them. Start something that's just draft 3 and then the scenes that you've chosen, and let the other ones go. I know you think maybe I'll need them, but you never end up going back. You always go from where you are. You generally. So that's my suggestion for somebody who has just a ton of scenes but has never managed to get the book off the ground. And then read that and read it and think about what's going on here. What did I really want to say about this material? Not just scene by scene, but overall. Like, what is the book, what is it really about? What's that book about? See if you could describe it to some stranger at a party. What's your book about? Well, it appears to be a book about, 3 sisters who get together and have to deal with their mother's death. So you really, this involved story about this love affair doesn't really fit in there, does it? Unless it has something to do with the sisters. Well, you can do 2 things. You can make it about the sisters. Maybe one of them stole the other one's husband. Now, there's an affair that knits it more closely. Anyway, so that's an idea. Okay, so how are we doing? We're doing pretty good on time. Is there anything else anything else you're curious about, interested, having trouble with? Generally, that's the thing, having trouble with it. I have for your student who has trouble writing about crying, Malika, have him look at photo books, like The Family of Man, like, go to the library and look at books of photography and find pictures of people crying, and then see if he can imagine what made them cry. what would spur this moment? What memory is that person having that elicits that response? That might be a good way for your student to start developing his empathy, learning to project himself into the lives of other people, which is what fiction writing's all about. All right, well, if we have no more questions, I will wrap this up for the time being. But please feel free to put your questions to me through my website, Janet Fitch Writes, and also it's becoming autumn now. We're in the middle of September. This is a good time, really good time to go out and do some nature observations, some weather observation, light, weather, sound, smell. What is autumn? What does autumn smell like? What does it elicit? What certain smells really bring out this season to you? It's back to school, so we all have very strong memories of going back to school when we're small, and what we wore and what it felt like and what we smelled and what we worried about, and we have strong memories of school. We have strong memories of Halloween is coming, things that happened in the fall, things the change of seasons. If you are in a place that has, we're still in the fire season, as we were when I was a kid, but autumn had certain smells, the days are getting shorter, even if it's still hot here, so what is the afternoon light in September? How is it changing? What's blooming? What's dropping its leaves? What animals do you see? Who's not there anymore? What insects are here and what aren't here? What are you eating that's here that reminds you, especially connection to the past? So think about it and record through the senses. Allow memory to unfold and allow the imagination to unfold. What is autumn music? What is, food? What is autumn fabric? And what can you get out of You can get a lot out of fabric, not just in your imagination, but go and see if you can find like a piece of wool, a piece of knitted sweater, autumn. God, I can just remember sweating in knee socks in 100-degree heat in LA in September because the fashion, you go, it's back to school, it's fall. 17 magazine says it's back to school, and we're wearing like wool skirts with, wool skirts in LA in 100-degree heat because it's fall, the autumn leaves, So see what you can remember and get those down. So Pawan says, I have lots of ideas, but when I sit down to write, I don't know how to start. I find it difficult to start. Okay, the easiest way to start is to, if you don't have ideas, is to pick a word. Just a word that's usually that can be a noun or a verb. I call it the word exercise. I'll give you one. I have a whole pouch full of these words. And you're going to write 2 pages double-spaced using that word somewhere in it. And what you do is you take the word and then you write down your associations with the word. So there might be 6 or 7 different associations with the word. And then you pick the one that seems most resonant to you, that means the most to you. and write 2 pages double-spaced using that word in the little piece, so 500 words max. But coming out of which association seems to be the strongest for you. So here's one I just picked out: ship. Ship. So for me, associations, okay, ship, it could be a boat, a ship, that kind of a ship. I get seasick. I instantly can recall like 3 or 4 different times of being on a ship and barfing my head off, or wanting to, and wondering how long this is going to take, and watching everybody else having a great time. You know, I can certainly think of like a little short story of one of those seasick ships. I like to be on a ship that is not moving. So I can think of checking into the Queen Mary here in LA. That's sort of a tourist hotel venue, and pretending that we're on the high seas in the 30s, you know, in luxury. And I could write about that. I could write about ship, when somebody is going to ship out into the military, what that's one kind of a ship. And I can imagine a story about some young person about to ship off, you know, for a war zone. Ship, you also ship, you know, something in a package. And there's all that. So what am I shipping? Who am I shipping it to? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Am I worried about it? Am I thinking about it? What else could ship be? Ship in a bottle. You know, people who build those little boats in a bottle. You know, actually my ex-father, my deceased father-in-law, built ships in bottles. It was very cool. So you think about the different associations that you have with ship, and then you write ship shape. Carla says that's right. And a certain kind of parent who might like a ship shape, usually kind of an overbearing parent who demands things be ship shape, and you know, the collision with a person like that would be a great ship. So I'm going to give you ship, and if you feel like we've overdone ship, I'll give you one more. Shower. So all the different things that can be shower, you know, or so shower is a verb. You take a shower, or shower, a shower of something, you know, a golden shower, which has also a very negative connotation as well as others, you know, shower of gold, shower of golden showers, a baby shower, a bridal shower, you know, all kinds of showers. So try one of those, 2 pages, double-spaced, use the word once. If you have ideas, but you don't know how to start, think about these little shorts are very helpful. They give you that little nugget that then you can expand from. I find that working from photographs is really useful. I am of the opinion, with a friend of mine, Les Plesko, a wonderful writer who taught at UCLA for many years, terrific writer. He always says, don't have ideas, but that's impossible. It's like a koan, you know. If you can imagine a scene, just write that scene, and don't have to figure out what to do with it. Just picture the scene. But often these prompts, like a photo that attracts you, your concerns will come out. Whatever you are writing, the you of you will come out because it's you. Annie Dillard, a wonderful writer, she wrote a book. I think this is in The Writing Life, where she says, the self is the bearer of the paint box, of its inherited contents of obsessions and fascinations. So what that means is that you are your own paint box. The stuff you're made of, the experiences you've had, your own, your own life and perspectives are the paint box that's your paint box. And it means that whatever you try to paint, your paint box is going to come out. So it's not out there somewhere. It's already in you. So you sense that. You have ideas and you want to write them. So that it really doesn't matter where you start. So to take these little prompts, which are kind of like Rorschach, they allow you to approach your obsessions and fascinations from the side. You're just writing about ship. But in fact, it starts pulling out who you are. I've done Writing Wednesdays in past videos that you might, might be easier to locate on YouTube, Janet Fitch's Writing Wednesday, that give sense exercises where you handle some fabric, and it's like, who is it, when is it, where is it? You smell something and tell us your associations to that, and sometimes story will arise from that. So look around on my YouTube and see if you can see some of my favorite prompts. But this story, the word one, I think everything I've ever written has started as one of these little word exercises, coming in from the side without preconceptions. I'm not saying I want to write about my brother. This is what I call neck up stories, where you decide in your head what you want to write. Whereas this kind of a thing is neck down story. You start with something that seems very neutral, but as you work on it, it starts pulling that material out of you. So very worth doing. All right. Well, I hope this helps everybody, and I will see you next week for Writing Wednesday. I hope you write well, and see you next week. Thanks.